A little girl vanished in the middle of her own birthday party without a trace. For 17 years, her family searched, prayed, and feared the worst. Then, out of nowhere, a letter arrived, written in her handwriting. What it revealed would shake an entire town and uncover a truth no one could have imagined. Before we begin, tell me, where are you watching from? Comment your city or country below, and let's see how far this story reaches. The late afternoon sun poured gently over the quiet cul-de-sac of Willow Creek, painting the sky in soft hues of gold and pink. On this particular day, the neighborhood seemed to hum with an extra measure of joy and laughter because it was Emily Carter's 6th birthday. The air was thick with the sweet scent of freshly baked cupcakes and the lively chatter of children darting between brightly colored balloons, their faces painted with whimsical designs of butterflies and superheroes. Emily, a small girl with a cascade of curly blonde hair and eyes as bright as the summer sky, was the center of attention. Her smile was infectious, lighting up every corner of the backyard where her family had gathered for a party that promised memories to last a lifetime. Her parents, Sarah and Michael Carter, watched her with tender pride as she blew out the candles on her cake, surrounded by cousins, friends, and neighbors who all celebrated this small but precious milestone. The laughter, the music, and the easy camaraderie painted a perfect picture of childhood innocence and familial love. Yet, in the blink of an eye, that picture shattered. It happened so fast that many who were there still struggle to recall the exact moment. One minute, Emily was chasing a red balloon near the maple tree at the edge of the yard, giggling with a few other children. The next, she was simply gone. No scream, no sign of struggle, just an absence so sudden it sent a ripple of disbelief through the crowd. Sarah was the first to notice. Her heart skipped, then pounded wildly as she called Emily's name, her voice trembling with mounting panic. Michael dropped the paper plates he was holding, his eyes scanning desperately over the sea of faces in the fenced backyard. The laughter stopped abruptly, replaced by a suffocating silence, broken only by frantic whispers and hurried footsteps. Neighbors abandoned their conversations, joining in the search, peering under tables and behind shrubs. The joyous celebration turned to an unthinkable nightmare in the span of moments. What made it even more harrowing was the fact that there was no forced entry, no sign that someone had come in from outside. The backyard gate was latched tight, the front door secured. It was as if Emily had vanished in a thin air. Sarah's knees buckled as she collapsed onto the grass, tears streaming freely down her cheeks, while Michael scrambled to call the police. The community that had come together to share a happy occasion was now united by a rising tide of fear and confusion. Emily's friends, too young to understand fully, huddled together, sensing the change in atmosphere, but not grasping the terrifying implications. Their innocent voices asking, "Where's Emily?" only deepened the growing dread. The hours that followed were a blur of flashing police lights, urgent questions, and desperate hope. Officers canvassed the neighborhood, dogs sniffed every inch of the yard and nearby woods, and helicopters circled overhead, casting beams of light into the deepening dusk. Sarah and Michael's world was unraveling faster than they could comprehend. Each unanswered call and each silent hour was a sharp sting, as if the ground beneath them was slipping away. The birthday party that had started with such promise had become the beginning of an unending nightmare. Friends and family tried to offer comfort, but there was no consolation for a loss so raw and immediate. The community, tight-knit and usually serene, was now caught in a collective grip of anxiety. No one could understand how a little girl could disappear so completely and so suddenly from a familiar, safe place. As the sun set that evening, washing the streets in shadows, the only certainty was the terrifying unknown. Where was Emily? And would she ever come home? This moment, forever etched in the memories of those who were there, marked the start of a story that would span nearly 2 decades. A story filled with hope, despair, secrets, and, ultimately, a mysterious letter that would reignite a flame of hope long thought extinguished. But on this day, in this quiet suburb with the setting sun and the lingering echoes of a birthday song, a family's perfect world was forever broken. The joyous celebration had turned to horror, and nothing would ever be the same. The night following Emily's disappearance stretched endlessly, heavy with a silence that weighed down every heart in the Carter household. Inside the modest, once warm and vibrant home, Sarah sat huddled on the living room floor, clutching a faded photograph of Emily in her tiny hands. The picture showed Emily beaming, her gap-toothed smile and twinkling eyes full of innocence, a snapshot of a childhood cruelly interrupted. Her mind raced, replaying every detail of the day, desperate to find any clue she might have missed. Beside her, Michael sat rigid and silent, his gaze fixed on the blinking voicemail light on the phone, waiting for a message that might bring a breakthrough, but knowing, deep down, that no call would ever ease this unbearable void. The house that once echoed with the sounds of Emily's laughter was now hauntingly quiet, each creak of the floorboards a painful reminder of her absence. Outside, the neighborhood was transformed into a sea of flashing blue and red lights. Police cars lined the streets, their engines idling as officers coordinated search efforts that stretched into the small hours of the morning. Volunteers from the community formed human chains, scouring nearby woods, parks, and alleys, their voices calling Emily's name into the night air. The local news vans had arrived, and the story was unfolding on television screens across the region. The phrase "missing child" flashed repeatedly, accompanied by Emily's smiling photo. The Carter's phone rang endlessly, a mixture of well-wishers, anxious reporters, and strangers offering prayers and condolences. But the one call they desperately wanted had yet to come. The emptiness in their home was echoed in their hearts, a silence more profound than any words could describe. Days blurred into nights as the search expanded. 9 units combed the surrounding woods, helicopters scanned from above, and divers searched nearby lakes and rivers. Every tip was followed, every shadow chased, yet no trace of Emily emerged. The police interviewed friends, family, and neighbors multiple times, looking for inconsistencies or overlooked clues, but the trail was cold. The community that had gathered with hopeful anticipation now watched with heavy hearts as the investigation stalled. For Sarah and Michael, each day was a torment. They slept little, ate less, and lived in a haze of fear and exhaustion. Their home became a command center filled with maps, photos, and notes, a constant reminder of what had been lost and what they still hoped to find. The local authorities classified the case as a suspected abduction, raising fears across the community. Neighborhood watch programs were formed overnight, with residents organizing patrols and meetings to keep their children safe. Yet despite all the vigilance, the terror of not knowing consumed every family. School classrooms felt emptier, playgrounds quieter. Parents watched their children with new eyes, wary, fearful, protective in ways they had never imagined before. Meanwhile, Sarah and Michael's personal lives unraveled under the strain. Friends tried to comfort them, but many recoiled from the raw pain, unsure of what to say or how to help. The couple, once inseparable, found themselves drifting apart in their grief. Michael retreating into work and cold silence. Sarah consumed by frantic searches and unanswered prayers. As the first week ended without a single clue, the weight of despair began to settle like a dark cloud over the family. Questions haunted every waking moment. Had Emily been taken by a stranger? Had something terrible happened in those fleeting minutes? Had she wandered off and gotten lost? Or worse, sleep became elusive, replaced by nightmares of what might have happened to their little girl. The community tried to rally around the Carters, organizing vigils and prayer circles, hoping their combined faith and solidarity might somehow bring Emily home. But in the depths of the night, Sarah found herself alone with her thoughts, wondering if they were facing an unimaginable truth, that Emily might never return. Despite the absence of leads, the Carters refused to give up. They clung to the fragile hope that somewhere, somehow, Emily was alive and waiting to be found. Friends and strangers alike donated their time and resources, setting up hotlines and distributing flyers, turning the search into a mission shared by many. The local sheriff's department assured them the case would remain open and active, but with each passing day, the reality of a missing child story settling into cold case territory loomed like a shadow over their hearts. Yet, even in their darkest moments, Sarah and Michael made silent promises to one another, to keep searching, to never lose hope, and to hold on to the belief that one day, their daughter's laughter would fill their home again. As the community's shock slowly faded into sorrow, life resumed for most, but never quite the same. The playground where Emily had loved to swing stood empty more often than not, and birthdays no longer brought carefree celebrations, but quiet reminders of what was missing. For the Carters, every anniversary, every holiday, was a piercing reminder of the day that changed everything. Their lives were forever marked by that sudden, unfathomable loss. And while the world around them tried to move on, their hearts remained tethered to the memory of the little girl who vanished on a sunny afternoon, leaving behind nothing but silence and unanswered questions. In the weeks and months that followed Emily's disappearance, the Carter household became a fragile shell of what it once was, shattered by grief and haunted by the silence left behind. Sarah and Michael, once partners in every sense, found themselves drifting apart like two ships lost in a stormy sea. The shared agony that should have drawn them closer instead built walls between them. Sarah's days were consumed by a desperate, almost frantic search for answers, poring over missing person posters, contacting charities, and speaking with anyone who might have information. She clung to every whisper of hope, every lead, no matter how faint, refusing to allow herself to surrender to despair. Yet beneath her determined exterior, the pain gnawed relentlessly. Each night, she would sit alone in Emily's empty room, running her fingers over the worn stuffed animals, whispering her daughter's name into the darkness, wishing for a miracle that never came. Michael, on the other hand, buried his grief in silence and work. He returned to his job as an accountant with mechanical routine, his face stoic but eyes hollow. The loss of Emily was a wound too deep to express, and he found himself unable to speak of it, even with Sarah. Their conversations grew shorter, their shared moments fewer, until the house was filled with quiet tension, broken only by the occasional outburst of frustration or tears. The siblings, too young to fully understand the tragedy, were left adrift in the emotional storm. Emily's younger brother, Tommy, barely 8 at the time, retreated into himself, his schoolwork suffering as he struggled with confusion and sadness. Their older sister, Jenna, tried to be strong for the family, but often found herself overwhelmed by the burden of hope and loss. The house that had once been a sanctuary of laughter and warmth now felt like a mausoleum of memories, filled with shadows and unanswered questions. Friends and neighbors, though well-meaning, began to withdraw as the months dragged on. The initial surge of support gave way to an uncomfortable distance, as people didn't know how to help or what to say. Some whispered behind closed doors, speculating about what might have happened to Emily or questioning the family's grief. The Carters were thrust into an isolating spotlight. Both mourned and scrutinized. Every holiday became a test of endurance. Birthdays, once joyous occasions, were now painful reminders of absence. Sarah found herself dreading the arrival of the first birthday without Emily, unable to escape the emptiness that day symbolized. Michael, though less expressive, shared her anguish in his own way, his silence a barrier that sometimes felt impossible to breach. The family unit, once so tightly woven, was fraying under the weight of sorrow. Therapy was suggested, and Sarah sought it with hope, but even the sessions felt like a fragile lifeline, barely able to hold together the fragments of her broken heart. Michael resisted counseling, unwilling or unable to face the depth of his pain with anyone but himself. The couple's nights were spent in separate rooms, their separate worlds of grief creating a chasm that seemed to grow wider with each passing day. The community watched helplessly as the family that had been the heart of the neighborhood began to unravel. The constant reminder of Emily's empty place at the dinner table was a silent, painful presence that nothing could fill. Friends who stayed close tried to offer comfort, but even their best efforts seemed to pale against the enormity of the loss. As the seasons changed, the Carters were forced to navigate the unbearable, living day by day with the hope that Emily might still be found, and the crushing fear that she might never come home. The birthdays passed in quiet sorrow, the holidays marked with muted rituals, and the milestones that should have been celebrated were swallowed by grief. Yet, beneath the surface of pain, a stubborn ember of hope flickered. Sarah held on to it fiercely, convinced that her daughter's story was not finished, that somewhere out there, Emily was waiting for the family to find her. Michael's hope was quieter, buried beneath layers of exhaustion and pain, but it was there nonetheless. In this fractured state, the family clung to memories, photos, toys, the faint scent of Emily's favorite lavender shampoo, as if these remnants could somehow bring her back. They held on to the past, even as the present threatened to swallow them whole. And so, life continued, not as it was, but as it must be, shaped by loss, haunted by absence, and driven by the unyielding need for answers. The pain was raw, the wounds deep, but the bond of family remained, fragile yet unbroken, waiting for the day when hope might finally turn into reunion. The years that followed Emily's disappearance stretched out like an endless, agonizing journey, filled with moments of hope and crushing disappointment. Sarah and Michael became relentless seekers of truth, their lives revolving around the search for their missing daughter. Every phone call, every unexpected knock at the door, ignited a spark of hope that was quickly smothered by the cruel reality that followed. They chased every lead, no matter how faint or improbable. Tips from strangers who claimed to have seen a girl matching Emily's description in distant towns, anonymous letters hinting at clues hidden in forgotten places, and even brief, heart-stopping rumors of sightings across state lines. Each possibility was pursued with a fervor born of desperation, but each ultimately ended in heartbreak. The police reopened the case multiple times, encouraged by new evidence or the family's persistent pleas. Detectives came and went, their faces etched with sympathy, but often without answers. The Carters collaborated closely with law enforcement, providing updated photos, answering questions, and attending meetings that too often ended with no new breakthroughs. As time passed, the case slowly faded from the headlines, relegated to cold case files gathering dust, while the Carters remained trapped in a liminal space between hope and despair. The community's initial fervor had dulled, replaced by quiet support, occasional prayers, and awkward silence when Emily's name was mentioned. The vibrant birthday party that once brought so much joy to Willow Creek became a distant memory, overshadowed by the long shadow of absence. Sarah refused to surrender. She joined support groups for families of missing children, finding solace in the stories of others who shared her pain. The meetings were a mix of shared grief, mutual encouragement, and moments of fragile hope. She poured herself into advocacy work, campaigning for better resources for missing children cases, trying to make something meaningful out of her heartbreak. Michael remained more reserved, but never stopped searching. Late at night, he scoured online databases and connected with private investigators, his eyes weary but resolute. Together, they clung to the fragile thread of hope that one day, somehow, their daughter would be found alive. Yet, with every passing year, the weight of uncertainty deepened. False leads became agonizing traps. Once, a woman called claiming to be Emily, her voice trembling as she spoke of captivity and escape. The Carters flew across the country to meet her, only to discover she was a woman haunted by her own past, seeking comfort in a family's hope. Another time, a package arrived containing a child's shoe and a faded drawing, sending the family spiraling into renewed anguish, until it was revealed to be a cruel hoax. These heartbreaks chipped away at their resilience, leaving scars invisible to the outside world. Friends and family, while still caring, could not fully grasp the enduring pain of waiting and not knowing. The strain of these years tested Sarah and Michael's marriage, their trust in the world, and their belief in the goodness of people. The siblings grew up with the shadow of Emily's disappearance looming over them. Tommy, now a teenager, struggled with feelings of abandonment and anger, while Jenna wrestled with guilt and the burden of being the remaining child. The family gatherings were bittersweet, memories mingling with grief, laughter laced with tears. School counselors and therapists tried to support the children, but the ache of a missing sister was a void no one could fill. As Emily's birthday approached each year, the Carters marked the day with quiet ceremonies, lighting candles, sharing stories, and holding on to the hope that the years would not erase the possibility of reunion. Despite everything, life moved forward. Sarah returned to work part-time, finding a way to balance grief with daily responsibilities. Michael took on new challenges in his career, driven by a determination to provide stability for his family. But every achievement was tinged with a lingering question. What if Emily had been here to share it? The seasons passed, and Willow Creek changed. New families moved in, old neighbors moved away, but the Carters remained, guardians of a memory that refused to fade. The unanswered questions became a constant hum beneath their lives, a quiet reminder that some wounds never fully heal. And then, 17 years after that fateful day, something unexpected happened. A letter, written in a child's handwriting, addressed simply to Mom and Dad, arrived in the mail. It was fragile and yellowed with age, the ink faded but unmistakably familiar. The letter promised to change everything, to reopen old wounds, and to offer a glimpse of hope that no one dared to believe still existed. The Carters held their breath, their hearts pounding as they unfolded the fragile paper, ready to face whatever truth awaited them. 17 years had passed since that sunlit afternoon when Emily vanished without a trace. Yet the pain and uncertainty remained as raw as ever in the hearts of Sarah and Michael Carter. So, when a simple envelope arrived in the mail one quiet spring morning, it seemed almost unreal. The handwriting on the front was unmistakably a child's, wobbly, uneven, with loops and curves that spoke of a young hand learning to write. The envelope was yellowed with age, the edges worn as if it had traveled a long, mysterious journey before finally reaching their mailbox. Sarah's trembling fingers barely managed to break the seal, the familiar scent of old paper stirring memories that had never truly faded. Inside was a letter, folded carefully, the ink faded but still legible, and as she read the words, a tidal wave of emotions crashed over her. Disbelief, hope, fear, and an overwhelming longing all intertwined. The letter began simply with the childlike greeting, "Dear Mom and Dad." The handwriting was unmistakably Emily's, a style they had cherished in the years before she disappeared. The words told a story, fragmented and hesitant, but unmistakably hers. She spoke of a place where she had been kept, far from home, and a journey that had kept her silent for all these years. The letter revealed pieces of her life in captivity, the kindness of a few strangers who had helped her, and her dreams of reuniting with her family. It was a message both heartbreaking and hopeful, a cry across time and distance that shattered the silence they had lived with for so long. Sarah clutched the letter to her chest, tears streaming freely, while Michael stood behind her, speechless and overwhelmed, his eyes reflecting the same mixture of shock and hope. Word of the letter's arrival spread quickly through Willow Creek. The community, which had long mourned with the Carters but gradually stepped back, was suddenly awakened by the possibility that their missing child might still be alive. The police were notified immediately, reopening the case with renewed vigor. Detectives arrived at the Carter home, carefully photographing the letter and collecting every scrap of evidence. For Sarah and Michael, this was both a blessing and a torment. The letter answered some questions but raised many more. Where had Emily been? Who had held her captive? How had she managed to send this message after all these years? The answers were still out of reach, tangled in a mystery that now seemed both closer and more elusive than ever. The family clung to the letter as a lifeline, reading and rereading every word, searching for clues hidden between the lines. Sarah began compiling a list of questions, determined to understand what her daughter had endured and how to find her now. The letter became a symbol of hope that lifted them from the depths of despair, even as it brought fresh waves of fear and uncertainty. The siblings, now adults themselves, rallied around their parents, sharing in the fragile optimism that this letter represented. For the first time in nearly 2 decades, the Carters allowed themselves to believe that Emily might still be out there, waiting to come home. As the investigation gained momentum, the media returned with renewed interest, capturing the nation's attention. News anchors revisited the story of the little girl who had vanished from a birthday party, now a young woman reaching out across the years. Interviews with Sarah and Michael revealed raw emotion and unyielding hope, drawing sympathy and support from all corners. The letter was examined by handwriting experts, forensic analysts, and cryptographers, all searching for any detail that might reveal Emily's location or the identity of those who had kept her hidden. The town of Willow Creek, which had once been the backdrop to tragedy, now became the focal point of a story that captured hearts nationwide, a story of loss, endurance, and the relentless power of hope. For Sarah and Michael, the arrival of the letter marked the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with difficult questions and the promise of answers. They braced themselves for the challenges ahead, knowing that the road to reunion would be long and uncertain. But the letter was a beacon in the darkness, a fragile thread connecting past and present, a reminder that even in the deepest shadows, love and hope could survive. As they folded the letter carefully and placed it in a protective sleeve, they made a silent vow to never give up, to follow every lead, and to bring their daughter home, no matter the cost. The arrival of the letter was like a key turning slowly in a long-forgotten lock, stirring the still waters of 17 years of silence. As Sarah and Michael pored over Emily's delicate handwriting, they felt both the weight of the past and a flicker of future hope. Determined to uncover the truth behind the cryptic words, they began to dig deeper into the fragments Emily had shared, memories of places, faces, and moments she had bravely described despite her youth. The letter mentioned a small cabin near a lake, a place where the seasons painted the walls in shifting light, and a woman who sometimes brought food and kindness, but whose smile never quite reached her eyes. These details, though sparse, offered the first real glimpse into Emily's hidden world. Sarah reached out to old friends and neighbors, anyone who might remember peculiar visitors or unusual occurrences around the time of Emily's disappearance. She combed through public records and local archives, searching for any sign of that mysterious cabin or the woman Emily had described. Meanwhile, Michael coordinated with the police and private investigators, sharing their daughter's descriptions and piecing together a timeline of possible movements and sightings. The process was painstaking. Each step forward often met with frustrating dead ends. But the Carters refused to be deterred. Each clue was a fragile thread weaving their daughter's story back together. One evening, Sarah sat in Emily's empty room, the letter spread out on the desk before her. The room, frozen in time, felt alive with the whispers of the past, faint echoes of Emily's laughter, the soft glow of her nightlight, the scent of her lavender shampoo lingering in the air. She read and reread the letter's passages, tracing the loops of the handwriting as if to summon her daughter's spirit. Michael joined her quietly, and for the first time in years, they spoke openly about their pain, their hopes, and the dreams they still dared to dream. The letter had opened a door not only to Emily's past, but to the fragile healing of their fractured family. As the investigation continued, the authorities uncovered a small cabin on the edge of a remote forest, fitting Emily's description almost exactly. The cabin was abandoned, worn by time and weather, but inside were traces of recent habitation, discarded food wrappers, a worn blanket, and faint fingerprints on the dusty windowsill. The discovery reignited the search with new urgency. Law enforcement intensified their efforts, canvassing nearby towns, interviewing locals, and examining every lead with fresh eyes. Sarah and Michael were invited to the site, where the weight of reality settled heavily upon them. This was the place their daughter had called home for some time, the shadows where her footsteps once fell. Yet, the mystery deepened. No sign of Emily remained in the cabin itself. No photograph, no personal belongings, only fragments hinting at her passage. The woman Emily mentioned remained unidentified, a ghost in the story whose true role remained unclear. Was she a captor or a guardian? Friend or foe? The questions multiplied, swirling in the Carters' minds like a relentless storm. The police pursued every angle, but the answers seemed just out of reach. Meanwhile, the community rallied around the family, their support a steady presence amid the uncertainty. The letter had breathed life back into a story that had long seemed frozen in sorrow, and with it came the fragile hope that closure might finally be within reach. For Sarah and Michael, the letter was more than words on paper. It was a lifeline, a bridge connecting their fractured past to an uncertain future. They knew the road ahead would be difficult, filled with truths both painful and profound. But after 17 years of silence, the first real steps toward healing had begun. And in the quiet moments, as they held onto one another and the promise of reunion, they allowed themselves to believe that one day soon, their daughter would come home. Months passed after the discovery of the cabin, the investigation moving cautiously but steadily forward. Every day was a mixture of hope and anxiety for Sarah and Michael, as they clung to the fragile promise that the letter had rekindled. Then, one chilly autumn afternoon, a call came that neither of them could have fully prepared for. A witness had come forward, someone who had recognized Emily's handwriting from the letter and provided a crucial tip. It led detectives to a small town several hundred miles away, to a modest apartment where a young woman fitting Emily's description was living quietly under a different name. The news shattered years of silence, sending shockwaves through the Carters' lives. The reunion was arranged with careful sensitivity. Sarah and Michael traveled with a mixture of trepidation and longing, their hearts pounding as they approached the moment that had haunted their dreams for so long. When Emily finally stood before them, a young woman transformed by time, but unmistakably their daughter, tears flowed freely. Her eyes, a familiar shade of green, held both sorrow and relief, a testament to all she had endured and the life she had survived. The embrace was long and wordless, the culmination of 17 years of pain, fear, and unwavering hope. For the first time, the Carters could hold their daughter close and feel the weight of absence lift. Emily's story unfolded slowly, carefully, as she began to trust again. She spoke of a kidnapping by a man who had kept her hidden in isolation, moving frequently to avoid detection. The woman from the letter had been a reluctant caretaker, someone caught in the man's control, yet showing moments of kindness. Emily had lived in fear, but had never forgotten her family. Over the years, she had found ways to leave subtle clues, including the letter that had finally reached her parents. Her escape had come only recently, after years of planning and a courageous moment that allowed her to seek help. The truth was difficult and painful, but it brought clarity and closure to the mystery that had consumed their lives. The community of Willow Creek welcomed Emily's return with open arms, a collective sigh of relief and celebration. Neighbors organized a small gathering, filled with tears, laughter, and heartfelt embraces. The story of Emily's survival and reunion became a beacon of hope, reminding everyone of the enduring power of love and resilience. Sarah and Michael dedicated themselves to helping their daughter heal, surrounding her with love and support as she reconnected with her siblings and reclaimed the life that had been stolen from her. It was a beginning, not an ending, of a new chapter filled with challenges, but also with the promise of healing. As Emily settled back into her family's life, the Carters worked to ensure her safety and well-being, seeking professional help to navigate the trauma she had endured. The scars were deep, but the bonds of family were stronger. Sarah often reflected on the journey that had brought them back together, from the frantic days after the disappearance, through the years of searching, to the miraculous arrival of the letter, and now, this precious reunion. Each moment was a reminder that hope, no matter how faint, could never be extinguished. The love that held them together had endured time, distance, and darkness. Though the road ahead would be long and sometimes difficult, the Carters faced it with renewed strength and unity. Emily's return was a gift, a testament to the unbreakable spirit of a little girl who never gave up, and to the family who never stopped believing. The community, forever changed by the story, stood ready to support them, offering a network of compassion and understanding. And as the seasons changed once more in Willow Creek, the Carters knew they had found something precious. Not just a daughter returned, but a future rebuilt on hope, love, and the enduring bonds that nothing, not even 17 years of silence, could ever sever. The days that followed Emily's return were filled with a mixture of emotions: relief, joy, and the slow, sometimes painful work of healing. Sarah and Michael watched as their daughter navigated the overwhelming process of reclaiming her life. Piece by piece, each step a small victory in the face of years lost. Emily's voice was soft, her stories hesitant at first, but as trust grew, she began to open the locked chambers of her past. Therapy sessions became a cornerstone for the family, a safe place where Emily could unravel the tangled threads of trauma with professionals who understood the depth of her pain and the strength she needed to rebuild. The siblings, once distant shadows in each other's lives, drew closer now, united by the shared experience of loss and reunion. Quiet evenings were spent in conversation, laughter slowly returning to the once empty rooms of the Carter household. Sarah found solace in these moments, grateful for the renewed warmth filling their home. Yet, beneath the surface, the journey was far from over. Emily's healing was fragile, marked by days of doubt and fear that threatened to pull her back into the darkness she had escaped. But the unwavering support of her family became a lifeline, anchoring her to a future she had almost lost hope of ever knowing. Community support was equally vital. Willow Creek, a town shaped by Emily's disappearance, now rallied to embrace her with open arms. Local organizations offered resources, from counseling to vocational training, helping Emily regain independence and confidence. The townspeople's outpouring of love was a powerful reminder that no one had forgotten her, and that hope could flourish even after years of despair. For Sarah and Michael, this collective embrace was both humbling and healing, a testament to the strength of human compassion in the face of unimaginable loss. Despite the progress, shadows lingered. Emily grappled with the scars of captivity, trust issues, nightmares, and a profound sense of dislocation. The family learned to walk alongside her pain, understanding that healing was not linear, but a journey marked by setbacks and breakthroughs. Sarah often sat quietly with Emily, holding her hand through moments of fear, whispering reassurances born from a mother's unyielding love. Michael became her protector, advocating fiercely for her needs and safety. Together, they rebuilt the foundation of a life interrupted, one day at a time, with patience and hope as their guides. The letter that had started it all remained a treasured keepsake, symbolizing the bridge between past and present. Emily's handwriting, once shaky and uncertain, now filled journals as she began to document her story, her voice growing stronger, reclaiming power over the narrative that had once silenced her. This act of writing became a balm, a way to process pain and share her experience with others who might find courage in her journey. Through this, Emily found purpose, transforming her trauma into a beacon of hope for those still lost in darkness. As spring returned to Willow Creek, the Carters stood united, their family whole once more. The road ahead would be long, but now it was walked together, with strength born from survival and love that refused to be broken. Emily's return was more than a miracle. It was a testament to the enduring power of hope, the resilience of the human spirit, and the unbreakable bonds of family. And in the quiet moments of reflection, Sarah and Michael knew that while the past could never be undone, the future held the promise of healing and new beginnings, bright and full of life. Even as Emily's life slowly took on the colors of hope and healing, shadows of the past lingered, casting long, complicated echoes over her newfound freedom. Nights were often the hardest, memories like shards of glass cutting through her dreams, pulling her back to the days locked away in fear and silence. Sarah and Michael watched helplessly as their daughter struggled to navigate the trauma that refused to stay buried. It became clear that survival was only the beginning. Healing would demand a deeper courage, a confrontation with fears that time could not erase. Yet, in those dark hours, the family's love shone as a guiding light. Emily's therapy sessions intensified, shifting from gentle reflection to confronting the harsh realities she had endured. Each visit peeled back layers of pain, revealing not just the trauma of captivity, but the complex emotions of isolation, mistrust, and lost innocence. The woman mentioned in her letter, the reluctant caretaker, became a focus of these revelations, a figure both enigmatic and haunting. Emily's memories were fragmented, but she recalled moments of kindness mingled with fear, a presence trapped between compassion and coercion. Unraveling this relationship proved as painful as it was necessary, helping Emily to understand the tangled web that had held her captive. Meanwhile, the police continued their pursuit of justice. The man who had taken Emily remained at large, a shadow looming over the family's fragile peace. Detectives pieced together clues from Emily's memories and the evidence found at the cabin, but his trail was cold and complicated by years of evasion. The hunt for him became a symbol of unfinished business, a battle for closure that the Carters faced with a mixture of hope and frustration. They clung to the belief that someday, the man responsible would be held accountable and that Emily's ordeal would not be in vain. Community support remained steadfast, but the Carters learned that some battles were deeply personal and could only be fought within the quiet spaces of their home. Michael found himself becoming more protective, often struggling to balance his anger with a need to give Emily space to heal on her own terms. Sarah, meanwhile, leaned heavily on faith and the strength of her community, drawing on their prayers and encouragement to sustain her. Together, they navigated this fragile phase, understanding that the path forward was complex and uncertain, marked by setbacks but also moments of profound courage. Emily herself began to reclaim her identity beyond the trauma. She enrolled in college courses, pursued hobbies she had once loved, and cautiously stepped back into the world that had once felt so distant. These small acts of normalcy were victories in their own right, signposts on the road to rebuilding her life. Yet, the scars were never far beneath the surface. There were days when the past felt overwhelming, when the fear threatened to consume her again. But each time, Emily reminded herself of the love waiting for her at home, the family that had never given up, and the future she was determined to claim. As the Carters moved forward, they understood that healing was not about forgetting, but about learning to live with the past in a way that empowered rather than imprisoned. The shadows would always exist, but they could be softened by the light of family, community, and the unbreakable spirit of a girl who had survived against all odds. And in those moments of quiet reflection, Sarah and Michael knew that their journey, while far from over, was a testament to hope's enduring power, a reminder that even the darkest nights must eventually give way to dawn. The months following Emily's return were a delicate dance between embracing newfound freedoms and wrestling with lingering questions that refused to be silenced. For Sarah and Michael, every day brought the bittersweet reality that their daughter was no longer the little girl they had lost 17 years ago, but a young woman shaped by experience and resilience. Together, they worked to create an environment where Emily could explore her independence safely, encouraging her ambitions while remaining vigilant against the shadows of her past. It was a balance that demanded patience, love, and understanding, qualities that had been forged in the fires of their shared ordeal. Emily's decision to return to college was a pivotal moment, a symbol of reclaiming her future on her own terms. Studying literature and psychology, she found solace in words and stories, connecting with voices that mirrored her own struggles and triumphs. The classroom became a place where she could slowly rebuild her confidence, surrounded by peers unaware of the extraordinary journey that had brought her there. Professors and friends alike noticed her quiet strength and determination, inspired by the grace with which she faced the challenges ahead. This new chapter was a testament not only to survival, but to the possibility of growth beyond trauma. Yet, beneath these hopeful strides, questions about Emily's past still lingered, casting shadows that demanded answers. The woman from the letter, the caretaker who had shown glimpses of kindness, remained an enigma. Who was she truly? What role had she played in Emily's captivity? Complicit captor, silent rescuer, or conflicted prisoner herself? Sarah and Michael sought to uncover the truth, working alongside law enforcement and community members who might hold pieces of this complex puzzle. Every new revelation brought a mixture of relief and pain, as the layers of Emily's story slowly peeled back to reveal a tapestry woven with both cruelty and compassion. The man responsible for Emily's abduction remained elusive, a ghost slipping through the cracks of justice. The ongoing investigation was a source of both frustration and hope, fueling the family's resolve to see him held accountable. They knew that true closure would only come with justice, a truth they carried silently in their hearts. In the meantime, they focused on protecting Emily's healing and nurturing the bonds that had survived years of silence and uncertainty. Family dinners, quiet walks in the park, and simple moments of togetherness became sacred rituals, anchors in a world still fragile but growing stronger each day. Community support continued to play a vital role. Willow Creek's embrace was unwavering, a network of friends, neighbors, and local organizations committed to helping Emily reclaim her place. Fundraisers, counseling programs, and awareness campaigns brought the town closer together, united by the shared desire to protect children and support survivors. This collective strength offered Sarah and Michael a profound sense of comfort, a reminder that their journey was part of a larger story about hope, resilience, and the power of human connection. It was a story they were determined to help write, one filled with light and healing. As spring blossomed once more, the Carters stood on the threshold of new beginnings. Emily's future was no longer defined solely by the past she had escaped, but by the dreams she dared to dream. With each step forward, they honored the journey that had brought them here, the pain, the waiting, and the unwavering love that had sustained them. And in the quiet moments, when the world felt both fragile and full of promise, Sarah and Michael knew that though the scars of the past would always remain, their family's strength and hope would endure, shining like a beacon to guide them through whatever lay ahead. The investigation into Emily's past gained renewed momentum as Sarah and Michael, now stronger and more united than ever, delved deeper into the shadows surrounding her captivity. With the help of law enforcement and a dedicated team of volunteers from Willow Creek, they sought to uncover every fragment of truth hidden in the dark corners of those lost 17 years. Each new piece of information, though painful, was a step toward understanding the full scope of what Emily had endured and what justice could still mean for their family. It was a slow, painstaking process, but every revelation brought them closer to closure. Emily herself became an active participant in the search for answers, her courage inspiring those around her. She revisited the memories contained within her letter, tracing back the faint clues left by the caretaker who had played a mysterious role in her survival. This woman, who had once seemed a figure of contradiction, was slowly revealed as someone caught in a terrible bind, neither fully villain nor victim, but a complex soul shaped by fear and circumstance. Through interviews, old records, and new testimonies, the pieces began to fit together, revealing a story more complicated and heartbreaking than anyone had imagined. Sarah and Michael were confronted with truths that challenged their understanding of the past. The caretaker, it seemed, had been manipulated and threatened by the man who took Emily, trapped in a situation far more tragic than initially thought. This revelation stirred a confusing mix of anger, sorrow, and compassion within the family. They wrestled with the idea that someone might have tried, in her own way, to help their daughter survive. It was a lesson in the complexity of human nature and the blurred lines between cruelty and kindness in desperate circumstances. The Carters found themselves needing to reconcile justice with empathy. Meanwhile, the search for the man responsible intensified, with new leads and technological advances offering hope. Law enforcement agencies collaborated across states, sharing information and resources to track down the elusive abductor. The Carters remained vigilant, hoping each day might bring news that justice was near. For Emily, the possibility of facing her captor was daunting, but she knew it was a necessary part of reclaiming her story and empowering herself fully. The family's resolve was unshakable. No matter how long it took, they were determined to see this chapter through to its rightful end. As the community rallied behind them, Sarah and Michael felt a renewed sense of purpose. Their personal tragedy had become a beacon for awareness and prevention, inspiring others to support victims of abduction and abuse. They worked tirelessly with local organizations to promote education and safety programs, hoping to protect other families from similar pain. It was a mission born from love and loss, a legacy they wanted to leave in Emily's honor. Through their efforts, the Carters transformed grief into action, turning their darkest hours into a source of light for others. In quiet moments at home, the family continued to heal together. Emily's progress was evident in her growing confidence and ability to speak openly about her experiences. The bonds between them, tested by years of separation and pain, now held firm with a newfound depth of understanding and love. The journey had been long and difficult, but it was shaping them into a family stronger than ever before, resilient, hopeful, and united. As spring gave way to summer, the Carters faced the future with courage, knowing that while the past had left its scars, their story was one of survival, truth, and the enduring power of family. After years of searching, months of piecing together fragments of a shattered past, the day finally arrived when the elusive man who had stolen Emily from her childhood birthday party would face justice. The news came quietly at first, a tip from an anonymous source, a name linked to a remote cabin miles away from Willow Creek. The police moved swiftly, careful yet determined, closing in on the man who had lived in the shadows for nearly 2 decades. For Sarah, Michael, and Emily, the moment was both terrifying and necessary, a reckoning they had awaited with a mixture of dread and hope. Emily was resolute as the authorities prepared for the confrontation. She had spent countless hours mentally preparing herself to stand face to face with the man who had taken her life so long ago. It was not just about vengeance. It was about reclaiming her power and giving voice to the years stolen from her. Sarah held Emily's hand tightly, Michael standing protectively beside them both, a united front against a past that had haunted their family. The community held its breath, witnessing the culmination of a journey marked by pain, resilience, and unwavering love. The arrest was swift and efficient, the man taken into custody without incident. His face, worn and shadowed by years on the run, revealed a man changed yet still bearing the weight of his crimes. During the interrogation, fragments of his story emerged, twisted justifications, denial, and fleeting moments of remorse. Emily listened silently, her heart pounding, as the truth she had long sought unfolded before her. The court proceedings that followed were arduous, the legal battles a final test of endurance for the Carters. But with each testimony, each piece of evidence, the full story was laid bare. Throughout the trial, Emily's courage shone. She testified with clarity and strength, recounting the harrowing years of captivity and the fractured hope that had kept her alive. The courtroom was filled with emotion, tears mingling with the weight of justice being served. Sarah and Michael sat by her side, their hearts swelling with pride and pain, knowing that their daughter's bravery was a beacon for all survivors. The verdict was a moment of profound relief, a sentence that brought a measure of closure, though the scars of the past would remain. In the aftermath, the Carters found themselves at a crossroads. Justice had been served, but healing continued. They leaned on each other more than ever, embracing the future with cautious optimism. Emily's story had become a catalyst for change, inspiring others to speak out and seek help. The family's journey from despair to hope resonated far beyond Willow Creek, a testament to the enduring strength of the human spirit and the power of love to overcome even the darkest of times. And in the quiet moments, as they gathered around the kitchen table, the Carters knew that their bond was unbreakable, stronger than ever before. With the man who had shattered their lives now behind bars, the Carters faced the delicate process of healing, a journey neither simple nor swift, but one marked by small victories and profound moments of grace. Emily, now free from the shadow of her past, began to embrace a future she had once only dared to imagine. Therapy sessions continued, focusing on reclaiming trust, rebuilding self-worth, and learning to live beyond the trauma. Each day brought new challenges, yet also new reasons to hope. Her family's unwavering support created a safe harbor where she could grow stronger, step by step. Sarah and Michael, too, found healing in the shared experience of survival and recovery. Their love, tested by years of uncertainty and fear, deepened into a bond fortified by resilience. They found solace in community outreach, channeling their pain into advocacy for missing children and support for families left behind. Their story became a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest times, light could be found. Through public speaking and collaboration with local organizations, they worked tirelessly to prevent others from enduring similar heartbreak. This mission gave their lives renewed meaning and purpose. Emily's personal growth blossomed beyond therapy and advocacy. She returned to school with determination, pursuing a degree in social work to help others heal from trauma. Her experiences lent authenticity and passion to her studies, inspiring peers and professors alike. Friendships blossomed, built on her newfound confidence and willingness to trust. She even reconnected with old neighbors and classmates who remembered the little girl she had once been. While scars remained, they became reminders not of pain alone, but of the strength it took to survive and rebuild. The community of Willow Creek, once marked by grief and fear, now radiated with resilience and hope. Annual events commemorated missing children, raising awareness and fostering solidarity. Families who had experienced loss or uncertainty came together to support one another, transforming sorrow into collective strength. Sarah, Michael, and Emily became cherished members of this tight-knit community, their story woven into its fabric as a testament to the enduring power of love, faith, and perseverance. The shadows of the past, while never fully fading, were softened by the light they helped to kindle. As seasons changed, so too did the Carters' outlook on life. They celebrated milestones with a new sense of gratitude. The birthdays that had once been reminders of loss, now symbols of survival and joy. Emily's letter, the catalyst for their reunion, was framed and placed in a place of honor, a daily reminder of hope's power to bridge even the longest separations. Looking forward, they understood that while the past would always be part of their story, it would not define them. Their journey was a continuing testament to healing, hope, and the unbreakable bonds of family. 17 years had passed since Emily vanished from her birthday party, yet the letter she had sent upon her return carried the weight of a lifetime, an eloquent testament to resilience, love, and the unyielding human spirit. That single piece of paper, penned in her own handwriting, had ignited a journey from despair to hope, unraveling mysteries, healing wounds, and reuniting a family fractured by loss. The Carters often found themselves reflecting on the profound impact of that letter, how it had been both a bridge and a beacon guiding them through years of darkness toward the light of reunion. Emily's story became more than just a personal triumph. It blossomed into a legacy that touched the hearts of many. She began volunteering with organizations dedicated to missing and exploited children, sharing her experience with compassion and courage. Her voice, once silenced by fear and captivity, now resonated powerfully, inspiring others to speak out and seek help. Through interviews, public appearances, and heartfelt conversations, Emily helped to break the stigma surrounding trauma and survival. Her journey reminded the world that even in the most desperate circumstances, hope endures. Sarah and Michael found solace in knowing that their family's pain had sown seeds of change beyond their small town of Willow Creek. They spearheaded community programs focused on prevention, education, and support, ensuring that other families would not face the same helplessness they once did. The town, forever marked by Emily's story, grew stronger and more united, transforming tragedy into a catalyst for vigilance and care. The Carters' experience became a cornerstone of this new spirit, a living testament to the power of love and perseverance in overcoming adversity. Those scars from the past remained. They served as reminders of the journey rather than burdens to bear. Emily's letter, carefully preserved and cherished, symbolized the enduring connection between family and the unbreakable bonds forged through hardship. In quiet moments, the Carters often gathered to read her words aloud, feeling the warmth and strength embedded within each line. Those words were more than ink on paper. They were a lifeline that had guided them back to each other and a promise that no matter the darkness, light could always be found. As they looked toward the future, the Carters embraced the lessons of their story: resilience, forgiveness, and the profound power of hope. They knew that life would continue to present challenges, but also that together they could face anything. Emily's letter was no longer just a message from the past. It was a beacon for the future, a legacy of courage and love that would inspire generations to come. And in the heart of Willow Creek, their story would forever remind all who heard it that even the longest separations can end in reunion, and even the deepest wounds can heal with time, patience, and unwavering love. And so, after 17 long years of silence, a single letter brought a family back together, rekindled the light of hope, and reminded us all that even in the darkest of nights, love never stops searching. Emily's story is more than one of tragedy and survival. It's a testament to the unbreakable bond between parent and child, the power of faith, and the healing strength of community. May her journey inspire us to hold our loved ones closer, to never lose hope, and to believe that miracles sometimes arrive in the most unexpected ways. Thank you so much for staying with us through this deeply emotional and unforgettable story. Your time, your heart, and your presence here truly mean the world to us. If this story touched you, please consider supporting our channel by subscribing, liking this video, and most importantly, leaving a comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts, your feelings, or even your own story. Whether you faced loss, found hope, or simply want to share your reflections, your voice matters here. Let's keep this space warm, kind, and full of connection. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.